All right. So it is 1:02, and I am really happy to be with you all today. And want to just kick off by saying there is an activity that will require a pen and paper. If you're somebody who likes to write out your thoughts, I encourage you to grab your pen and grab paper, or alternatively, just open up a Google Doc or a notes document in your on your desktop, and then we'll be ready to hop right in. I first want to say thank you to everyone for joining. I really appreciate you taking the time over your lunch or early morning to be in community with me today. Many of you know me. My name is Rebecca Darwin, and I use she, her pronouns. I'd like to begin by letting you know that I'm calling in today from unceded Indigenous lands. The Ganyangahaga Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters in which I am present today. Tiohtià:ke, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. As a settler, daughter of immigrants, and person of African descent, I acknowledge my privilege. I am deeply grateful to live, work, and play on this land, and I'm committed to justice and true reconciliation. I know that many of you are calling in today from across Turtle Island. Please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat, letting us know your name, your pronouns, and where you're joining us from. Some gentle reminders for the session. If you can, take yourself off of mute when you want to speak. Please feel free to interact with me. I know many of you are eating and are off camera. If you can give me a thumbs up using your reactions button, that'd be wonderful. And just remember to stay connected with me and do what you need to do to take advantage of your lunchtime, stay hydrated, and stay well fed. So a little bit about me, I would just kick us off by sharing that I am redefining the do good narrative by raising the voices and profiles of those who have been underlooked and overlooked and underserved, because that's where I believe true change really resides. I have led strategy, policy, fundraising, and partnerships, mobilizing multi-million-dollar investments in equity, health, and education. I am a founding member of the Foundation for Black Communities, which exists to ensure the flourishing and self-determination of Black communities in Canada. I'm an alumni of the Women Leaders of the World Global Fellowship, and I am the Canadian Millennium Laureate. I started out my career doing frontline street outreach, and I now work at the intersection of philanthropy, strategy, and social impact. During our conversation today, we will really be launching into learning around how to activate your generosity this giving season. The giving season typically falls between October and December, launching with Canadian Thanksgiving, having American Thanksgiving, which is today, as well as Giving Tuesday, which is next week, and heading into the holiday season when we have many, many holidays across multiple religions and special holiday time. So during this interactive session, we will be completing a generative activity for you to discover 4 areas to activate your generosity. We'll be proactively planning your philanthropic action for this season, and we will be committing to implementing 1 action before the end of the year. So I will be kicking us off right now into the learning component of this time together. Since joining the philanthropic sector about 5 or 6 years ago, and more specifically over the last 16 or 18 months since launching the Foundation for Black Communities, people have asked me a really important and interesting question, which is, who is a philanthropist? Is it Mackenzie Scott, who is giving away $6 billion this year alone to small charities and nonprofits? Is it Oprah, who started her Academy of Learning in South Africa giving away cars on TV to teachers who have done so much incredible work educating the next generation? Is it Bill and Melinda Gates who have committed $1 billion to eradicate malaria? Many people who know me through the work that I do see me in institutional philanthropy, working with private family foundations, high net worth individuals and high net worth families. But today, I'm not really going to be focusing on that institutional philanthropy. Today, I am going to be focusing on who I think is the answer to this question. How do I define philanthropy and who is a philanthropist? I say that it's everyone. And my vision for philanthropy is that everyone is recognized for their contributions to social good. As I said in the intro, I am very interested in redefining the narrative of who gets to call themselves a philanthropist. We need to shift the mindset and acknowledge the generosity comes from all people of all backgrounds. And we have so much to give and so much recognition that really we need to be able to open up who we think about who a philanthropist is. And more specifically, in this time, I want to focus on you as an individual. There is a tremendous need for generosity right now. In Canada, there is 170,000 charitable and nonprofit organizations, according to the Canada Revenue Agency. And what we know is that activating our own philanthropy will help assist where generosity of institutional philanthropy has had gaps. Some of you have heard of the Unfunded Report launched by the Foundation for Black Communities last year, which found that for every $100 going out of the door from Canadian philanthropy, as little as 7 cents is going to Black-led organizations. In addition to that, there was a report that recently came out by charitylaw.ca that found that just over 1% of grants that go out every year were going to Indigenous groups and Indigenous-led groups. And I think that it's time for us to really raise the voices and profiles of those who are not being met by traditional and institutional philanthropy. And one way to do that is to really activate our own giving. And that's what we're going to be able to do together in our time today. So I have a question for you all. How can we address some of the intention? There's a quote here by Khalil Gibran that says, "The smallest act of kindness is worth more than the greatest intention." Can you drop in the chat, or even feel free to come off mute, what gets in the way of your giving and activating your own generosity?
I'll start.
Please.
How are you doing, Rebecca?
I'm great, thank you. And yourself?
Good. Thanks for having this, and welcome everybody, and thank you everybody for coming. So my name is Andy Wedderburn. I actually just recently got into the charity and philanthropy sector. And to answer your question, I think one of the things that gets in the way is there's a lot of different ways to give and a lot of different organizations to give to. And sometimes I've found, at least, it's a little helpful to be committed to maybe one or a few. And if everybody did that, I think, we can all do our own little small part. But for me, at least, I used to go to church very often, and that's when I used to do my part. But as you go older, you don't go to church as much. During those times where I was active, that enabled me to do it. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me, though. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so I'm hearing kind of a lack of time and maybe not being in the communities that you were in before, and having kind of an abundance of places to give and not really being focused in that ability to move forward. And those are really common challenges, right? We all want to be able to give, specifically in giving season, and then we can find ourselves in a bit of a reactionary space. something happens in the news and we're motivated to give. But what I'd like us to encourage each other in this space is to really become proactive and to have a plan for this season starting today. And so let me share a little bit of the timelines of what we have at our disposal right now. We have an opportunity in this moment together to have a commitment. So we're going to make a commitment today to do something ideally by next week. So next week is an international day called Giving Tuesday. It happens on November 30th every year. And Giving Tuesday is an opportunity to really leverage multiple ways of activating your generosity, which we'll get into a little bit more in a moment. And so through this commitment, we will act together, and we'll use up until December 31st to really reflect on that giving and really think about the ways that we've been able to mobilize in our community as individuals and as stewards of social good. So when I am talking about activating your generosity, what I'm speaking about is donating what we call commonly in the sector the 4 T's. So we have time, talent, ties, and treasure. And in the area of time, this can look like volunteering on the weekend. It may be childcare or elder care. It may be taking a moment to visit with a friend, have a conversation, go for a walk. Really expanding your personal time. And in so many ways, we're in a very, very busy world right now. So there is limited time. So it's a very, very generous act to be able to say, you know, I want to come and spend time with you and be in community with you. Another type of philanthropy, another way to give back, is to share your talent. And all of us have talent. You can provide pro bono services. You can share your expertise. You can share your wisdom. That's something that you've learned in your life along the way. You could facilitate a conversation, facilitate a meeting, facilitate a board conversation. You may know how to code, and you could teach somebody how to code. You may be very good at doing taxes, and you can spend some time with a charity to go through personal finances and teach maybe participants in a program how to file your taxes. It may be how to make a website. It could be how to use social media. In all of the different domains that we work in, there's an opportunity to share that talent. Ties is an area that was added to kind of the 3 T's, it's now the 4 T's, was added by the 2164 initiative. And this is really getting to something that I am particularly fascinated by and believe is something that we can really open up very, very easily. And it's activating our networks. So who can you introduce somebody in need to? How can you open doors? You may not be able to give personally at this moment in time, but there is something we call fundraising. Can you pick up a phone and ask somebody to donate to any of these ways, you know, activating that ability to credential, using LinkedIn and taking a moment to give somebody a shout out on LinkedIn to say, I recognize this person's work out there. I want to share it with the network. There is so many ways to amplify. We all have a platform, whether it is on social media, on Instagram or TikTok. It may be your personal network that is not online. It may be picking up the phone to say, I recognize this young person and I see the work that they're doing. Can you meet with them? Just sharing your introductions and advancing is another way you can activate your generosity. And the final T here is treasure. And this is actually the one that most people think about, you know, clicking that donate now button and supporting a charity or nonprofit. But I want to kind of expand that a little bit more and really invite you to think of the in-kind donations that you may be able to make of clothing or food. remittance, sending money out of the country back home to family and friends, that is treasure giving. You may be donating your points, your air miles, or your Shoppers Drug Mart points. There's ways to do that. You could donate a gift card. And like I said at the beginning, you can activate that, transfer of capital by clicking donate now on majority of charity and nonprofit websites, as well as using resources like Canada Helps, which I'll share a little bit further. So I'm sure that many of you have been thinking, as I've been outlining these 4 ways that you can activate your generosity. Now I'd like to give everyone the gift of time to be intentional here. And I encourage you to take out that piece of paper or open up a separate Google spreadsheet or a Word document there and actually write out on that piece of paper or in quadrants time, talent, ties, and treasure. And we're going to take about 5 minutes to really think about ourselves and think about how we can activate these 4 ways of giving.
Rebecca, I don't mean to interrupt, but could you clarify the ties network piece again?
Absolutely. So this would be sharing your network and really leveraging the people that you know. So there may be a friend who has a daughter who is looking for their next internship, and you could pick up the phone and make a couple of phone calls to the people that you know and open up your networks. That's one way of activating ties. It may be that you don't have say you know of a local fundraiser and people are looking for money. You may have already donated or may not be able to donate at that time, but can you pick up the phone and ask others to donate or donate their time, their talent, their ties? So it's about leveraging that larger network.
Pardon me, Rebecca, I just had a question.
Yes, please.
You mentioned a 2164 initiative or something of the sort. I kind of missed that. What is that exactly?
Yeah, 2164 is an intergenerational education program that is really looking to activate philanthropy from older generations and teaching younger generations. So I will share that in the resources after the time together. And they have really been advancing thought leadership around generosity and giving, primarily with institutional philanthropy, but I think that it's very applicable for all of us on the call.
Okay. All right, that's great. Thank you very much.
Of course. I'll give you all another minute or two to think about these few areas. As you are, I'm going to call kind of everyone back a little bit. And because we're a small group today, want to invite those who feel comfortable to share a little bit of some of the ways that they're thinking about activating their generosity, or brainstorm and share a little bit out from your brainstorm. Maybe Koso, I could get you to go first.
Definitely. So I actually thought the sharing my network piece was helpful, and you gave me a perfect example. So just sharing both the resources that I have available with respect to my member network as an organization, but also using it to help the youth we've seen in terms of getting access to folks in our network and the employers that are available. With respect to time, and so this is where I'm not stuck. I'm like, it's very much like a volunteering your time, and where's the commitment, and really doing it in a valued, like I'm not just showing up for showing up, and I'm actually doing something that's making a meaningful impact. So really trying to commit to where my passion lies with where I have time available. So I was looking at and I actually did a little bit of a Google while we were here. So looking at what are the local what are the local areas that I can actually dedicate some time to. So I've picked three. I want to kind of look at it further before I articulate, if that's okay. And then just with respect to treasure, the one thing I was looking at, because I have done one-offs, right? And I realize it's like whenever someone says, oh, we're looking for X, Y, and Z, I wasn't very intentional. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll just donate. And so I like that aspect of it. So I kind of broke it down to three buckets. So I am passionate about politics. I am passionate about women and youth. And then COVID related, because there were so many challenges with respect to those furthest away from like resources. It's where can I put my effort, so that, and that's more like an international effort than it is a local one. So just looking at it in those three buckets, and that is what I've thought of so far. I hope I'm like, yeah.
That's beautiful. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I think this is the time to do it. So I'm really glad that you were able to use the brainstorming space to even do the research in real time. I'm wondering if there's anybody else who might want to share, or you can feel free to drop in the chat what your thoughts are. Yes, Jürgen Mugen.
Hi there, Ashil, Mpenda, he, him. One of the things I thought about, it's related to time. So before the pandemic, I was participating in a reading program for little kids. And it was, once a week, an hour and a half, helping them read some of their books. And I'm thinking right now in the current scenario with some kids learning from home and things like that, and that program sort of ceased because of the pandemic. But I think probably this is the time that it's most needed, because schools are under-resourced with providing a reading material to kids remotely. Parents are overwhelmed. This is where I think time can come in and basically provide the extra help that's needed for those kids. So it was just eye-opening brainstorming about that for me.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Good time for one more person.
Maybe I can jump in. Thank you. This is a great way of really mapping out how if you give. I haven't thought about knowledge and talent, and I really appreciated the fact that you can do a difference in someone's life by just endorsing their profile on a LinkedIn or a professional network. You know, I do philanthropy in a very organized and in a very almost predictable way. My mother calls me and says, you know, so and so in our town needs money. You know, you have 24 hours to do it, and I oblige, and I think that's, you know, and I feel she has her ears to the ground and she knows who really needs the most. So one of the things that really always concerns me and maybe hinders me to your first question, Rebecca, about like what's the barriers to, is to ensure that your giving is relevant and is making a difference, and I find, you know, that's one way of getting, and that's obviously connecting and being connected to communities is one of the best way to ensure that your giving is relevant. So I like this. I think that time, talent, ties, and treasure, the whole thing is required to be able to actually be relevant and give meaningfully.
Absolutely.
So thanks for that.
Thank you. One of the things that I really reflect a lot on is the type of giving that doesn't get a charitable tax receipt. And that is what we are seeing in this. And I love the giving that you're talking about, Shahad, is that recognizing that the boots on the ground, the needs may not get you a charitable tax receipt. And that doesn't mean that that generosity is not valid. That's the kind of thinking that I want to shift, and that mindset shift of generosity is so much more than what the CRA may give you a tax receipt for. And we want to recognize that and honor that. So thank you so much. I will take us to the next component of this activity, and that is commitment and a shared accountability. So we are in this room together, this virtual room together, and I'm going to encourage us all to now look at that map of what you have written down, and what is a tangible way that we can use each other as a resource to overcome some of the obstacles that we had outlined a little while ago. Not having the time, not necessarily being connected, being reactive and not proactive. Let's take this opportunity as a collective here to commit to each other, and primarily to ourselves. First to ourselves, and then using community to keep us accountable. Let's choose one or two things that we can action within 5 days. So I'll give you a couple minutes to really, actually put a date down. So the date is going to be November 30th. We're going to use Giving Tuesday as our collective date. And what is something that you can do between now and then, recognizing the multifaceted way that you can give? A couple prompts may be things that are close to your work. How can you mobilize your professional network or your day-to-day job? Is there some ways that you can be generous in your day-to-day job? You have 3 working days, 3.5 working days until Giving Tuesday. So maybe that's some way that you can activate really quickly. Or maybe it's in your personal life. A random act of kindness. What is a random act of kindness that you might be able to do between now and next Tuesday? As I give you another minute or two to think about what you're going to do, I'll share how the collective accountability will work. So with your task and active generosity that you're going to action in the next 5 days, I'm going to be putting out a call to action to everybody who is in this room and also all of my online community to share what they have committed to today. And I'll check in next week. I'm going to check in on Giving Tuesday and I'm going to say, you know, were you able to accomplish it? Because nothing is more helpful than a friend coming and tapping you on the shoulder and asking you if you were able to do it. And so my commitment is to everybody in this room with me now that I will personally reach out to you. And you will probably be able to get to know each other by being in the comment section of LinkedIn or Instagram. And let's hold each other accountable. So I commit to you that I will be actioning. I will put on my LinkedIn, I'm going to put out 5 recommendations of people who have helped me in the last year. And I will post on LinkedIn so everybody will be able to see my 5 recommendations of vendors and people in my support system who've been amazing. And I will also donate to a Black-led charity by Giving Tuesday, and I will share that on social. So it's always good to lead by example. So I will be doing that, and I'll also be the gentle nudge to everybody in the room. So if there's anybody who feels really compelled to share what they're committing to, I encourage you to come off mute or to drop it in the chat. Or if you want to keep it personal, you can just drop me in the chat to let me know that you are on board for this collective challenge. Thank you. Thank you, Jihad. All right. Hey, awesome. Thank you so much. Sounds great. Thank you, Akosua. I know how helpful it is to have that gentle nudge. So expect the gentle nudge from everyone. Thank you, Vati. And I'm going to kind of move us into a little bit of an open forum now, and want to just invite anybody who might have questions or sharing your thoughts around how this has maybe opened up your mind to think about giving in a new way.
I can start us off if that's okay. Honestly, whenever I thought of Giving Tuesday, I genuinely thought of like, where am I putting my money? And to who? And you've opened it up completely for me with respect to and to Jihad's point, the talent aspect, like recognizing talent and really promoting them, the ties as well as the time, right? So the time, most of the time, I just think of, oh, this is just me volunteering, but this is my way of giving back to community.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that.
If I could share,
Please,
I have some younger colleagues later today who have lots of questions for me that I find a little daunting. So I'll carry this forward with me into that later today. So
beautiful, beautiful. That mentoring and stewardship of the next generation is really important, and to see that as an act of generosity is excellent. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I'll go next if anybody else is not going. So thank you, everybody. Actually, Michelle, sorry, you just actually made me realize I have been doing a lot of philanthropy, because I've had these students. I always bring in new students in our organization, and I've been doing that probably for the past 8, almost 9 years, and I've taken a lot of time to actually mentor them and actually help them get on their road to becoming lawyers. And most of that mentorship actually was outside of the office. And when I think about actually all the time, you guys have made me realize that I shouldn't be so hard on myself, maybe because I wasn't thinking about it like that before, right? Yeah. I would often even spend a lot of company money on resources for them. I get in trouble for that, but you got to look at the bigger picture, right? But I think your presentation here had made me realize, I guess, thinking about giving and generosity and talent and all these different things in many different ways, because I would have never thought about these different aspects of giving like that. You just think of giving as, oh, you take money out of your pocket, you give it to somebody. But it looks like we may be more generous than we thought. And I think maybe I can go forward with being more active in doing it like this, and maybe encourage other people to do it as well. So that was what I kind of gathered from this. So, so thank you for that.
That's beautiful. I'm so happy to hear it. I think that the mindset shift again that needs to happen for everyone is that philanthropy isn't an elitist thing. It's not somebody that only a few people have access to. We all have access to it. And so what I'm going to be sharing is that Philanthropy Forward and sessions like this will continue into 2022. And I'm really excited to be on this immediate accountability journey with everyone in the room and everybody who's going to be watching the recording later, because there's a lot of work to be done. And I'm so excited that we're doing it as a collective. I have a few resources here that I wanted to just share. I will also add the 2164 programming and contact information in the slides that will go out, as well as the recording that will go out. So you'll see Giving Tuesday here. Giving Black is an initiative that is launching this year for Giving Tuesday. Canada Helps is a tried and true space that you can use to research different organizations and get more information there. Imagine Canada as well. And the Foundation for Black Communities is a place that you may consider activating and mobilizing your generosity this season. And with that, I just wanted to open up the floor for any questions that might have come up in our time together. This would be an excellent time if you have questions of me or questions of each other.
Can I ask a question, Rebecca, about Giving Tuesday? Has it really impacted giving in a meaningful way? Has it changed trends? I mean, I'm curious to really learn more about this, because I'm bracing myself on my inbox for about 1,000 emails between now and next week. So about this, which is fine. I'm every charity should be able to pursue every possible opportunity, but is it making a difference? Is it engaging new donors? Is it building on existing ones? Like what's the impact of that? I'm really curious, and maybe that's not too much.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question. So I have become more involved in an understanding of the Giving Tuesday movement really recently. And what I didn't realize is that it had started in about 2012. So it's a fairly young movement. And what's interesting about it is that it is decentralized, and it is really based on volunteers who have come forward to say, this is something of interest to me. Let's mobilize in our community. Let's mobilize and activate giving in a multifaceted way. So it is also not like Giving Tuesday. There's a misconception that it is primarily about charitable dollars and activating those donations, but it is really also about all of the multitude of ways that are free to give, like giving that random act of kindness, giving a hug, like those are things that you can snap and share for Giving Tuesday. I would say that the momentum is building significantly, and there is new partners coming onto Giving Tuesday internationally all the time. So we've seen significant resources mobilized in places like Nova Scotia with Giving Nova Scotia. There is significant movement underway with new initiatives like Giving Black. And so we're excited to see, and I think like any distributed social movement, it takes a little bit of time. And so I think that what you may have seen over the last couple of years is like that snowball that kind of keeps going and gets a little bit more snow every time you push it. That's what we're seeing with Giving Tuesday. So I think there's a lot to come from it. So stay tuned. Let us know how your inbox looks next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions?
Actually, I had a question. Are you going to do a follow-up meeting with all of us to check in on us like this, or is it just going to be through messaging?
I'll do it. I'll send everyone an email.
Okay.
And it's a great segue. Thank you for that, Andy. Like, you couldn't have given me a better segue. I want to just say thank you to everyone here who has really taken time out of your day, recognizing that time is one of the biggest ways that people are generous. Being in community with me, it means a lot to me, and I'm so excited to see how far your giving will go. I want to let you know that I will be coming up with additional Philanthropy Forward series and events in the new year, so stay tuned for that. And you can stay connected with me. Feel free to drop me an email. My contact information is on the slides and will be in the chat as well. And if you can just share any takeaways that you have, you can feel free to pop them in the chat. Anything, I think it's already come up, just the ability to think about giving in a new way. But let's stay connected. And I just thank you so much for being with us.